The galaxy was never silent, not since humans joined the stars. Their voices filled every corner of space. They talked constantly. On comm channels, they told jokes, shared stories, argued with each other, and laughed loudly. Some aliens found it annoying. Others found it interesting. But one thing was true. The humans were always talking. From Earth to the farthest colonies, you could always hear them. Even in peaceful zones or deep space trade stations, the sound of human voices was always there. Music, chatter, speeches. Even nonsense radio shows that no one understood. Then, one day, they stopped. It began with static Captain Rallick of the Vernari trade. Fleet was the first to notice. He was flying near the border of Sector 9, close to human space, when his ship's translator buzzed with static. Usually, human signals would fill his system. He checked the channel list. Nothing. No music, no talking, no background noise, only silence. He frowned and turned to his second officer, a small blue creature named Drex. Humans must be asleep, Drex joked, clicking his sharp teeth. Rallick didn't laugh. They don't all sleep at once. He switched to an emergency channel. Nothing. Not even a ping from nearby human satellites. The captain's skin turned pale. He had never seen humans silent before, ever. The Council's alarm within hours. Other ships reported the same thing. Human channels had gone dark. The Galactic Council received dozens of complaints. Trade ships were being delayed. Human stations were not answering docking requests. Spaceports with Earth symbols were powered on, but there were no voices inside. A special emergency meeting was called on the central world of Veltrax. Ambassador Kieran of the Tolari race stood tall in the center of the glowing chamber. "We must assume human technology has failed," he said calmly. "Let's not panic." Others disagreed. "They are planning something," said General Vrosh, the war chief of the Brox. "Humans don't go quiet unless they are preparing for war." Ambassador Zila of the peaceful Lisari raised her voice. "What if something has happened to them? What if they need help?" The chamber filled with arguments. Tension grew. The council was used to human noise. It was part of daily life. The silence felt wrong. And deep down, every species felt something they hadn't felt in decades. Fear. A warning ignored 10 cycles before the silence. Humans had spoken at the council. Their representative, a man named Daniel Reeve, had warned the others. "You're not listening," he said. "We've been talking, sharing, explaining. But no one hears us." Back then, the council laughed. Humans talked so much, no one took them seriously. "When the noise stops," Daniel had said, "that's when you should worry." Now, his words echoed in many minds. The council ordered ships into human space. They had to know what happened. Empty signal scout ships entered human space slowly. They expected to be greeted by human chatter, but the space was quiet. The first scout ship, Nova Echo, approached a human relay station. It was powered, lights were on. The auto-docking system was active, but no one responded. A drone was sent in. It scanned the station. No crew, no bodies, no damage. Just silence. Inside the command room, a hot cup of coffee still steamed on a table. Screens were open. Logs showed someone had been working just minutes before, but no humans were there. Then one drone picked up a strange message blinking on a private terminal. "You spoke over us. Now you will listen." Silent colonies. More ships went deeper into human territory. They found entire planets, empty cities with lights on, machines running, and no sign of war. One ship landed on New Toronto, a massive Earth colony with 8 million humans. It was clean, safe, but silent. The air smelled of fresh bread. Showers were still dripping. Cars had stopped mid-ride. The aliens moved carefully through the city. Inside one school, a child's notebook was left open. The last sentence read, "Today is the day they stop listening." In a library, a large banner hung on the wall. Let our silence be louder than our noise. The message was clear. This was not an accident. Reactions across the stars' news spread fast. Across the galaxy, species debated what it meant. Some believed the humans were planning an attack. Others believed they had all gone mad, but deep down, many realized the truth. The silence was a message. The chattiest, loudest, noisiest species in the universe chose to be silent. That choice scared everyone. The Charnock race, who had mocked human music, now played recordings of it in fear, thinking it held hidden meaning. The Krellians, once enemies of Earth, activated all defense systems. Even the mighty Zor Alliance, who had never feared humans, stopped their border expansion. What if silence is their signal to begin? Whispered one of their generals. A message from nowhere. 3 days after the silence began, a small probe entered neutral space. On it was Earth-made. It carried no weapons, no crew, just one hologram. The council gathered to watch. The hologram showed a young human woman with short brown hair and calm eyes. She looked straight into the camera. You didn't hear us when we laughed. You didn't listen when we warned you. Now you will feel what silence means. Then the probe exploded in a burst of blue light. No damage, no harm. Just silence again. The question that echoed back in the council chamber. Fear turned into confusion. What did the silence mean? Was it war? A test? A protest? No one knew. All they knew was that the humans had vanished. By choice, they left everything working: ships, power, systems. But they took themselves away. It was not a disappearance. It was a decision. The captain's dream. Captain Rayleigh sat in his quarters, looking at a screen that used to stream human comedy shows. Now it was blank. He played an old recording of a human stand-up comic. The man laughed and joked about alien food, weird space customs, and even human mistakes. Rayleigh smiled for a moment, then stopped. He remembered something the human had said near the end of the joke. One day, when we stop talking, you'll miss us. That's how you'll know it's serious. Rayleigh felt a cold shiver run down his back. That day had come, and no one was laughing anymore. Final line. Across the stars, silence filled the space where human voices once danced. And in that silence, fear grew. The silence was no longer just strange. It was terrifying. The entire galaxy had been built around noise. Ships spoke. Stations spoke. Humans always spoke. Now the most talkative species had vanished without a sound. And the ones left behind? They began to panic. Galactic Council emergency meeting. The central world of Veltrax glowed under 3 suns as the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered in the Great Council Dome. It was shaped like a glass sphere floating above the city. Inside, the air buzzed with nervous energy. Ambassadors from over 100 species filled the seats. Holograms flickered. Screens showed silent human colonies. Whispers echoed. Everyone was waiting for someone to explain what was happening. At the center stood Council Leader Drevin, a tall, pale alien from the Vexery Order. His voice was slow and deep. We are here to discuss the disappearance or silence of the human species. No contact, no communication, no explanation. Then came a voice from across the room, sharp and filled with worry. You mean no warning, said Admiral Kezer. Of the Brock's war clans, they didn't ask, they didn't explain. They just shut down all contact. Accusations begin. The room heated up fast. The Torcan Empress hissed through her breathing tubes. This is clearly a preparation for war. They've gone dark to strike from the shadows. The Krell Elder clicked her claws on the table. Or perhaps we pushed them too far. Did we not laugh at their culture? Their music? Their endless talking? Admiral Kezer slammed his fist on the desk. We should have taken them more seriously. We mocked them for being weak, emotional, chaotic. But now they control the conversation by choosing silence. Ambassador Zila of the peaceful Lisari stood up slowly. She held a glowing crystal, a symbol of her people's wish for peace. Humans came to this council with open hands. They shared knowledge freely. They traded, joked, and built bonds. They asked us to listen. She paused, her voice shaking. And now that they are silent, we're all afraid. That should tell us something. The human history reminder, a soft hum, echoed from the back of the chamber. All eyes turned to a small, black-shelled alien walking forward. He was from the Vari Collective, known for memory implants and long life. His name was Archivist Pellin. I remember Earth's first contact, he said. Back then, we called them primitive. Loud, unpredictable. He showed an old image. On the main screen, Earth humans cheering when they landed on Mars, laughing, celebrating. They were always noisy. Not because they didn't think, but because they felt. Their voice was their tool, their defense, their culture. He tapped the console, bringing up another clip dot. It showed a human soldier, bleeding on the battlefield, still shouting orders and encouragement, refusing to go quiet even in death. Now imagine what it takes for such a race to go silent. The room went cold. A vote for Action Council leader Drevin cleared his throat. We must decide. Do we investigate further? Or do we declare emergency status and prepare for possible human aggression? Each species voted. Some wanted to send more scouts. Some wanted to shut borders. A few, like the Brocs, called for full military readiness. But one vote surprised everyone. The Talari Empire, known for logic and neutrality, stood and spoke clearly. We propose a listening mission. No contact, just observation. No aggression, no approach. Confused, others asked why. The Talari diplomat simply said, because the silence is not an invitation, it's a test. Secret signal found as. The meeting ended. A whisper spread among council technicians. One of the deep frequency analysts, a small gray-skinned alien named Corvain, had picked up something. He requested privacy and showed his findings to the Intelligence Council. It's not just silence, he said. It's a pattern. Hidden inside old human broadcasts. Their songs, their jokes, their game shows. He adjusted the frequency and played a short human song. Beneath the lyrics, hidden in the bass, was a message. If we are ever quiet, you should worry. More signals were found across old videos, news broadcasts, even movie trailers. The warning had been there for years. Hidden in the noise, and no one listened. Protests and paranoia back on alien worlds. Panic spread like wildfire. News stations played old human recordings. Conspiracy channels exploded. Alien children cried when their favorite human cartoons didn't. Air soldiers stood by at borders. Some species banned human content, fearing it contained triggers. Others began building underground bunkers. Riots broke out in at least 3 core worlds, each shouting the same thing. Where are the humans? Religious cults even began to form. One believed the silence was a sign of the final reset. Another claimed the humans had ascended beyond matter. One alien preacher screamed on public comms. The gods were talkative too, until they left. One council member breaks down in a rare moment of raw emotion. Council member Reichs, a seasoned diplomat from the cold-blooded Dren species, stood before the chamber again. He was always calm, always rational, but now his hands shook. I used to hate their music, he whispered. Now I play it to sleep, because silence is worse. He paused, staring into the dark glass. We spent decades talking at them. Now we wonder why. They don't talk back. Final scene. The red envelope. As the council prepared to adjourn, a red object appeared in orbit. A human probe identical to the one before descended toward the dome. It carried no weapons. Inside was a sealed red envelope. Council guards surrounded it. No one dared open it. Finally, the Krell elder stepped forward and unsealed it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "You heard our noise and dismissed it. Now hear our silence and decide." There was no signature, no demand. No time limit. Just silence. Final line. As the council stared at the silent message, one thought echoed in every mind. What comes next? If we still refuse to listen? The galaxy had never been this afraid, not of war, not of disease, not even of black holes. But now they were terrified. Of silence. Of humans. And of what might be hiding behind their sudden vanishing. So, the council sent ships. Not to attack. Not yet, but to watch, listen, investigate. What they found was far worse than war. The mission to Delta 6, the first ghost report, came from the reconnaissance ship Vigilance, crewed by Dalkari and Talari scientists. Their destination, Delta 6. A human repair dock floating between trade routes. They arrived on time. The beacon was still flashing. Power levels were normal. No signs of damage. Looks fully operational, said Commander Jarn, adjusting his scanner. They hailed the station. No reply. So, they sent in drones. Empty hallways, working systems. The drones moved through long metal corridors. Lights were on. Gravity was active. Air was fresh. The control room still had human coffee steaming in cups, but the place was empty. Not destroyed, not abandoned. Just missing. Screens showed logs of the crew clocking in just hours earlier. Security footage showed people walking, eating, working, and then suddenly, all standing still. One by one, the humans walked out of frame. None looked afraid. None ran. None packed bags. They just left. We are watching. The drone team sent in a code breaker to access the final logs. Inside a locked drive, they found something chilling. One text file, opened at the exact moment. The crew vanished. It read only one sentence. We are watching. Wreckage without death. More scout ships visited other human stations. A mining ship, the Arcadian Flame, drifted near the rings of Fexer Prime. Its engines were functional. Life support was active, but the crew? Gone. The strangest part? Personal. Items remained, journals, meals, children's toys. Even weapons were still in the armory untouched. No sign of escape pods used, said LT Follows, scanning the ship. They didn't leave. They vanished. A medical scan showed one. Thin, out of place. Each bed in the crew quarters had fresh sheets. Someone had made the beds after the disappearance. The escape pod pattern on Station Port Haven. Deep in neutral space, a different scene played out. Humans had left. Cameras caught the crew, silently walking into escape pods. They wore no helmets. No armor, no fear. They simply boarded the pods and launched into space. No distress signals, no explosions, no notes. The only sound recorded was the pod door closing. With a soft click, a Krell scientist on the investigation team stared at the footage and muttered, "They didn't run. They relocated. They're not dead. They're somewhere by now." A theory began spreading across the galaxy. The humans had not died. They had not been attacked. They had not gone mad. They had left, quietly, willingly. But no one could figure out where they went. Their ships weren't tracked. Their escape pods gave no signal. They didn't jump to other colonies. It was as if they had vanished into a different layer of space. One Dravari scientist suggested something insane. They built a parallel network, a ghost grid, separate from the known web of the galaxy. A hidden path. Built inside our blind spots. The council dismissed it. Publicly, but privately, many feared it was true. The Silent Armada. Then came the strangest report. A Lissari patrol near the dead zone of Sector 5-9 picked up something massive. Dozens, maybe hundreds of ships. Human made sleek. Dark and silent. They didn't respond to hails. They didn't move. They just floated. Perfectly spaced, like a graveyard of warships waiting for a signal. Each ship's name was blacked out. Each hull bore the same painted words: not forgotten, not forgiven. The Lissari patrol turned and fled. They never returned to that sector again. A broadcast that wasn't a broadcast 1 week into the search. Every major galactic station received a new signal, not on regular channels, not even on emergency bands. It came through entertainment feeds. At 0900 Standard Time. All screens across thousands of worlds flickered and went dark. Then a voice spoke, calm, male, unmistakably human. You recorded our noise. You mocked it. You ignored the meaning. The screen flashed with old footage, humans laughing, crying, yelling at council meetings. Now your silence will be deeper, because we learned from you. Then came a strange sound. Thousands of human voices saying the same word. Listening. Then. Nothing. Council shock and standoff. The council gathered again in emergency mode. The debate was no longer about peace or war. It was about fear. Some demanded full defense activation. Others wanted to launch search parties. A few still begged to open negotiations. But there was no one to talk to. One ambassador from the insectoid bricks race finally screamed, "We thought we understood them. But their silence speaks louder than any war cry." Then came a final shock. A message played from inside the council's own servers. No one knew how it got there. This is not abandonment. This is awareness. We haven't disappeared. We're watching who you become when we're not around. Final scene. The child's drawing on a distant farming world. A Drenian archaeologist opened a package delivered months ago from Earth. Inside was a child's notebook from a human classroom. On the final page was a drawing of the galaxy full of dots and stars. In one corner, a small blue Earth was drawn. Next to it, written in shaky handwriting, "One day we'll stop talking. And that will say more than anything." The archaeologist dropped the notebook. And outside, the wind whispered softly. But for the first time in his life, the alien wished he could hear a human's voice again. Final line. The humans had vanished. Not with force, not with fire, but with a silence so loud it shook the stars. The ships were empty, the stations abandoned, but now it was time to go deeper. The Galactic Council approved ground missions to human colonies. They had to know, where did the humans go? Why did they leave everything behind, running, but not fleeing? So they sent down teams, and what those teams found was not destruction, not chaos, but something much worse. Landing on Arden Prime. Arden Prime was once home to over 12 million humans. A lush colony with forests, cities, and schools. A place filled with human music, sports, and laughter. The planet still looked beautiful from orbit. Power grids were running. Orbitals were stable. But the scanners showed something strange. No life signs, no battle scars. No damage. Only absence. A Lasari drop team, led by Captain Elrin, landed on the surface with care. They stepped onto the main spaceport. The doors opened by themselves. The lights flickered on. Security turrets tracked them, but did not fire. The systems were still working, but no one was using them. Streets with no footsteps. The aliens moved through the capital city of Arden. Skyscrapers stood tall. Windows were open. Holograms played silent ads. At first glance, it looked like any peaceful day. But there were no footsteps. No laughter. No echo of human life. In one coffee shop, mugs sat half full. Chairs were slightly pulled out. One screen blinked with a paused video titled, 10 Things Aliens Will Never Understand About Humans. No one ever hit play. The house that waited the team reached a suburban zone. Houses stood clean and untouched. In one home, the team found a dinner table set for 4. Food was cold, but fresh. A family photo sat on the wall. 2 smiling parents, a child, and a dog. The calendar on the fridge was marked Tuesday, family game night. The strange thing? The food was made just hours ago. Yet, no life signs. No blood, no struggle. No transport log showing anyone leaving. It was like the people had stepped into the next room and never came back. The message in the schooling, the center of the city. They found a school. It was colorful. Drawings covered the walls. The hallways smelled of paper and ink. Inside one classroom, the chairs were empty. The lesson on the smartboard read, History. What happens when you stop being heard? The whiteboard below it had one handwritten sentence. If we spoke and they never listened, what will they hear when we're quiet? Captain Elren's voice cracked. They prepared for this. The wall of silence behind the school. They found something eerie. A long wall several meters tall painted entirely in black. On it, written in glowing white letters, were thousands of quotes, phrases, and jokes from humans. Some were funny. Some were wise. Some were emotional. We scream so loud because we care. You think we're too loud? Try hearing nothing. Our chaos was always better than your silence. We begged you to notice. Now we vanish. At the bottom, in red, when we stopped talking, remember what you missed. The wall was new. It was made just before the disappearance. A message for those who came too late. Colony after colony, the council sent teams to 5 more colonies. Same results. Cities left running. Systems untouched. Human voices completely gone. One station still played a soft jazz tune on repeat. Another had a robotic pet that wagged its tail when someone entered the room. But there were no humans anywhere. In one library, an alien found a note inside a book. We gave you our thoughts, our stories, our hearts, but you treated it like noise. So now you'll get silence instead. The blood message on the distant colony of New Salem. A Brock scout team made a darker discovery. In the center of the city, on the steps of the public hall, something was smeared on the walls. Red, thick, dripping. It was blood, but not from violence. Writing was calm, clean, controlled. We warned you. Now we listen. One scout scanned the blood. Human DNA. Whoever wrote it wasn't in a panic. They wrote it on purpose to send a message. The last footage, the most chilling find, came from a ship. At Colony Station Orbis. A hidden security camera had been left running. It showed the crew gathering in the cargo bay. No one spoke. They stood in a circle, closed their eyes. After exactly 60 seconds, each turned and walked away one by one into different corridors. They did not meet again. The final human to leave turned to the camera, looked straight into it, and nodded once. Then the feed cut. The growing fear when the council saw the recordings. Many species broke protocol and left the chamber. Some were crying. Some were angry. Some were shaking. One council member whispered, "This isn't silence. This is judgment." Another said, "They didn't go mad. They became something more." And the worst thought of all, what if they're still watching? Still listening, waiting to see what we do. Final scene. The empty broadcast room on Earth. A council-approved drone team entered the global broadcast tower. It was the largest human communication center, where shows, songs, and speeches once filled. The stars. Inside, the control room was still warm. Monitors glowed with live feed options. Cables were neatly coiled. The chair in front of the main console was turned toward the wall. On that wall was a single phrase, carved deeply into the metal. "We don't shout to be loud. We shout to be heard, but you never heard us." As the drone recorded those words, a low hum filled the air. Not noise, not a signal, but the sound of something breathing. Then the screen went black. Final line. The worlds were not ruined. The people were not running. The humans had simply walked away, leaving behind everything except their silence. The alien worlds tried to return to normal. Markets reopened. Warships went home. Schools resumed. News channels aired old human shows to ease tension. But even with smiling news hosts and cheerful music, everyone could feel it. Something was wrong. The silence was still there, loud, heavy, waiting. Then came a new discovery. One that changed everything. the Dalkari codebreaker in the crystal towers of the Dalkari system. A deep-frequency analyst named Neri Vox worked alone. She was blind, but her species heard in thousands of tones. She didn't study human words, she studied how they sounded. One day, she was reviewing human sitcoms for humor pattern analysis. She expected jokes, laughter, chaos. But then, she heard something else. A sound beneath the jokes. A strange pulse, repeating behind the laugh track. She slowed the playback. Her ears twitched. It wasn't just laughter. It was code. The pattern beneath the noise. Neri dug deeper. She fed the sitcom into a harmonic decryption system. The results shocked her. The pattern repeated in every episode, but slightly altered, like a rotating key. She checked other shows. News broadcasts, game shows, talk shows, even in children's cartoons. It was there, a hidden message, spreading slowly across years, embedded inside human noise. She contacted the Dalkari High Signal Center. They laughed at first, but when she played the raw decoded message, silence filled the room. The first decoded line, the first full message translated clearly. This is not chaos. This is architecture. The Dalkari researchers stared at the screen. Then more messages followed, all buried inside old human content. You call it noise. But we've always been building something. You heard volume. But we were writing warning signs. If we fall silent, it means you missed everything. Council briefing. Shock and denial. The council was summoned again. Neri Vox was brought in and played the full decoded track for all species to hear. The chamber went cold. Ambassador Relic of the Vernari stood in disbelief. Are you saying every bit of human content was layered with warning signals? Neri nodded. They never shouted nonsense. They shouted in code. We were too arrogant to hear it. Ambassador Zila of the Lisari clutched her crystal and whispered. They tried to tell us, but others refused to believe. This is manipulation, shouted General Vrosh of the Brox. They're playing a long game. This is psychological warfare. The Telleri calmly responded. Or maybe it's what humans do best, communicate, just not the way we expected. The music file soon. Analysts across the galaxy joined the effort. Musicians and AI composers discovered that even in human songs, deep harmonic layers contained messages. A pop song from 47 years ago, once mocked for being annoying, when broken down revealed this. If you ever hear nothing from us, it means we finally realized talking wasn't enough. One classical piece, a piano solo played on Earth's Memorial Day, contained this phrase in waveform. We begged with sound. You answered with silence. Even the memes had meaning on the Krell world of Mir. A humor historian examined old human memes, short jokes and images. He decoded one with a dancing cat and the words, "This is fine." Inside the image metadata was hidden binary code. The translation? If even jokes carry warnings, maybe we were never laughing. Suddenly, even the loudest, dumbest human jokes became terrifying. They hadn't just been funny, they had been layers. The Drenian scholar's realization scholar Mavix, a calm, logic-based alien from the Dren species, wrote a now famous statement after hearing the messages. We thought humans were noise. But it turns out they were speaking in 10,000 ways. And now in silence, we understand none of them. He paused, then added, they didn't just leave. They left knowing we still didn't get it. The horror of the silence. Kaya Lisari, AI technician, while breaking apart a human broadcast satellite, found something horrifying, a subroutine hidden inside the human signal transmitter. It had one purpose, to activate a final code only if humans stopped transmitting. The message was simple. Congratulations. You finally noticed. What you do next decides everything. There was no timer, no threat, just a test, a galaxy-wide silence. Waiting for a response. Alien panic spreads again across the stars. Fear turned to obsession. Human jokes were now studied like holy texts. Old podcasts were treated as warnings. Movies became code books. Some species tried to imitate human chaos speech, thinking it might reverse the silence. One insectoid broadcaster hosted a 48-hour stream where he just shouted random words. It failed badly. Others began copying human behavior. They filled public places with music, jokes, dancing. But it all felt hollow, forced, because they weren't humans. And they hadn't earned the noise. Final scene. The message in the static. A lone Valkyrie scientist left a recorder running near a dead Earth relay. For weeks, it captured nothing. Then late one night, it crackled. A human voice came through, soft, old, full of sorrow. You heard us sing. You heard us shout. You ignored the melody. Now hear the silence, and ask yourself, were you ever listening? Then the signal cut. Final line. The galaxy had mocked human noise. Now it stared into the silence and realized it had never understood anything at all. The galaxy was listening now. They played human songs like they were sacred. They studied old shows like scriptures. They read human jokes like riddles. But the silence continued. No messages. No replies. No sign of where the humans had gone. Then something arrived. Not a fleet. Not a weapon. Not even a person. Just a box. And it changed everything. The arrival of the box had appeared in orbit over Veltrax, the Galactic Council's homeworld. No ship dropped it off. No drive signature. No warning. It was simply there, a black cube, smooth and silent, floating without power or signal. Council defense systems scanned it. No explosives, no harmful radiation. Just carbon, metal, and one small phrase written across its side in faded Earth English. This is our final broadcast. The galaxy froze. The Council's decision panic spread fast. Some wanted the box destroyed. Others begged for it to be opened. Ambassador Zila of the Lasari stood and spoke gently. We ignored their words. We mocked their signals. Let us not ignore their silence too. After hours of debate, Council leader Dreven finally nodded. Open it. Inside, they found a crystal cube, glowing faintly blue. One side flashed a pulsing light. When activated, it projected a hologram. The final message. The chamber dimmed. The hologram flared to life. A human stood before them, tall, graying hair, wearing Earth's former diplomatic uniform. His voice was calm, his face tired. My name is Daniel Reeve. If you're seeing this, we've gone quiet. The chamber held its breath. You called us loud, annoying, chaotic. We were all those things. But we were also trying, reaching, teaching. The hologram showed images, humans laughing with aliens, sharing meals, dancing, building colonies together. You never listened, not really. So now we give you space to reflect, space without us. The echo of their mistakes. The projection continued. This silence isn't war. It isn't surrender. It's something harder, trust. We trust you to decide who you are without us shouting in the background. The image shifted to Earth. Quiet, peaceful, empty cities glowing under stars. We've walked away, but not far. Then came the warning. If you respond to our silence with hate, weapons, or fear, you'll confirm what we feared. But if you respond with growth, with questions, with listening, maybe we'll speak again. The question they left. The hologram paused. Then Daniel Reeve leaned forward. This box is not a threat. It's a mirror. And the question we leave is simple. When you can no longer hear us, what do you become? The hologram ended. The room stayed silent. No one moved. Systems react. Then something happened. As the message ended, deep inside the box, a hidden mechanism triggered. Thousands of small energy pulses shot out, not harmful, but powerful enough to reach beacons across known space. Those beacons were Earth-made. Some had been silent for years. Now they lit up. The awakening of the beacons across the galaxy. On border worlds and trade stations, small black obelisks once placed by human diplomats began to glow. Each one displayed the same phrase. Phase 2 initiated. Monitoring begins. Species across the stars panicked. Monitoring what? What are they watching? Are we being judged? The Telari ambassador calmly answered, "They are not watching us. They are waiting to see if we've learned anything." Divisions among the stars. The galaxy split in two. Group 1. The fearful believed the humans were testing them, demanded walls, shields, and isolation, prepared for war, just in case. Group 2. The curious believed this was an opportunity. Studied human culture deeply, began teaching listening, empathy, communication. Even the Brocs, a warrior race, built a center for human studies on their homeworld filled with decoded memes and sitcom analysis. A sign on its gate read, "In noise we saw chaos. In silence we found meaning." The silent return? A month after the black box, something else happened. Ships began reporting strange glitches. A sudden replay of an old human radio broadcast. A child's voice singing a human lullaby, a joke told in perfect human tone through a station's INO sources. No signals. The council debated. Was it ghosts in the machine? Or a sign that the humans were still here? The final panel in the box. One Telari engineer kept studying the cube. Eventually, she found a hidden touchpad on its base. When she tapped it, a second message activated. A single line. "We'll speak again when silence teaches more than our words ever could." Final scene. The star listener on a small moon in forgotten space. An old Krell scientist sat under a dome, listening. He played human music each night, hoping something would answer back. One night, as he played an old Earth tune, his radio crackled. A whisper, a breath, a human voice. Not a message, just a quiet, thoughtful humming. And then silence again. But this time, it felt different. It felt like hope. Final line. The black box didn't carry war or warning. It carried a question, and now the galaxy had to answer. In the quiet, the humans left behind. The galaxy was restless. The black box's message echoed in every mind. When you can no longer hear us, what do you become? Some races chose fear. Some chose curiosity. But none were prepared for what came next, because the human silence was not a retreat. It was an alarm. The first warning. Months after the box arrived, systems began failing. It started small. A minor power outage on a mining colony here. A communication blackout on a distant trade route there. But the failures grew. Whole star systems went dark. Ships lost control in warp lanes. Alien planets reported strange sensor glitches. Scientists scrambled for answers. The signal disruptions. The Council's Science Division traced the failures to interference from an unknown source. It wasn't natural. It wasn't cosmic radiation. It was deliberate. Something was blocking communication. The Brock's war chief growled. "It's a weapon, a silent one. A message in the dark, then across the darkened systems." A new broadcast appeared. It wasn't on normal channels. It wasn't human. It was a warning. A calm female voice spoke in multiple languages, layered and clear. "You ignored our noise. You mocked our chaos. Now hear this. Silence is not absence. It is vigilance." The message repeated endlessly on every frequency. Panic and preparation. Alien governments scrambled. Borders closed. Fleets mobilized. Relays built to cut interference. The Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Zila pleaded, "We must not respond with force. This is a call to listen, not to fight." But many were too afraid. "They are preparing for war," said Admiral Kezar. "And this silence is just the warning shot." The silent armada's move radar soon detected massive movements near human space. But the fleets were Still silent. No transmissions. No warnings. Just thousands of ships moving in eerie formation. The galaxy held its breath. The humans' true power in secret. The humans had been preparing, not with loud weapons or overwhelming fleets, but with something far more terrifying. They had built a network of silent weapons, advanced stealth systems, jamming fields, and invisible traps in space. These weapons could cut off entire star systems. They could cripple fleets without firing a shot, and they had hidden them well. First strike without a shot. Suddenly, the Brock's fleet guarding a key trade route lost. All power. No explosions. No damage. Just silence. Ships drifted, stuck in place. Alien commanders could only watch in horror. Their systems were frozen, their weapons dead. The humans hadn't attacked. They had locked the galaxy down. Council desperation. The Council struggled to respond. They tried to send messages, but the silence blocked them. They tried to activate backup systems, but those too failed. The humans were everywhere, but nowhere to be found. A silent force controlling the galaxy's communication. The turning point in the darkest hour. Ambassador Zila stood again. This is not conquest by fire. It is conquest by understanding. They want us to listen, to respect their silence, to change. Her words inspired a few. A coalition of species began to lower their weapons and open dialogue channels. But it was a dangerous gamble. A silent answer one night on a quiet relay station. A signal broke through. A simple message. You have heard the silence. Now listen with your hearts. We never wanted war. We only wanted to be heard. No name, no origin. Just hope. Final scene. The first step on Veltrax. Council chambers buzzed. The galaxy was at a crossroads. Will they rise above fear? Will they learn to listen? Or will silence become the sound of war? Captain Rallick whispered. The humans taught. US one last lesson. Silence isn't empty. Silence is a warning and a chance. Final line. The human silence was no defeat. It was the alarm that the galaxy had finally woken up to. The galaxy held its breath. After months of silence and shadow, after the warning strikes and whispered threats, there came a moment no one expected. The human spoke again. The signal returns. It started quietly, a single broadcast, low and soft. Voice, calm and steady, breaking through the silence. We have listened, we have watched. Now it is time to speak. The message spread across every frequency, every relay, every screen. The human voice belonged to a woman older, wise, full of quiet strength. She was called Commander Lyra Dane. The Council reacts on Veltrax. The Council erupted in stunned silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Until Ambassador Zila stood and said, they have chosen to return on their own terms. Let us listen, truly listen. The chamber cleared space for the broadcast. The message of peace. Commander Lyra's voice filled the chamber. Our silence was never abandonment. It was a mirror held to the galaxy, to see if you would change, if you would grow, if you could listen when we were loud and when we were quiet. She spoke of mistakes humans had made, of chaos and noise and pain, of lessons learned through silence. We return not to conquer, but to collaborate, to build a galaxy where all voices matter, loud or quiet. The return of the humans. Over the next weeks, ships with blue and white flags, human flags, appeared. In orbit over colonies. No longer ghost ships. No longer silent shadows. Humans return to open dialogue. The healing begins. Alien species who once feared silence now greeted the humans. Old grudges softened. New alliances formed. Council meetings were filled with laughter and debate. The galaxy learned to appreciate both noise and silence. The final lesson. Commander Lyra ended the broadcast with words that echoed through the stars. Noise and silence are two sides of the same coin. Together, they create meaning. Remember this. Listen to all voices, for that is the true strength of the universe. Final scene. A galaxy united as the humans rejoined the galactic community. A youngly sorry child asked her mother, "Why did the humans stop talking?" Her mother smiled, "Because sometimes silence speaks louder than words." Final line, and with that silence ended, the galaxy was never the same again.